You all right? My name's Paul. I've got autism and I make random videos based on my version of autism and the way my head works. And I stick the videos on the internet in case you fancy watching them. And this is my little Dark Side of Autism series where I'm picking on topics that are not fun, happy, shiny, and friendly in the world of autism and talking about them because I'm not here to always shine a positive light. If you've seen any of my videos, you'll know I'm never positive, but these things that people don't want to talk about for some reason, and I will. And the one that's the hardest to talk about is autism communities because my experience is I've not found them to be a positive place. And I'm not having a go. You know, you could have you could have found everything you've needed, your acceptance, your part in the world to fit in within a certain autism community because there's a load of them out there. And good for you. I'm happy for you, genuinely, even if I don't look like I am. But what I've not experienced is positivity through autism communities. And I want to share why. So I'll just give you a great example. So the biggest one, the biggest community out there is probably actually autistic. The hashtag actually autistic. And all of the problems I've had have been under that. So I know there's going to be some good people who use that hashtag, and there's going to be some bad who use that hashtag. It's not a governed or controlled thing, it's just what people do. Stick a picture up or a post on Instagram or Twitter or wherever hashtags can live, and people generally put actually autistic. And I did when I started making stuff for the internet because I wanted people to see, I wanted people who were like me, who felt like there was no one talking their language. I wanted them to be able to gravitate towards me and go, I get some of the stuff this guy says. So they didn't have to feel on their own, which is how I felt when I started doing it. So all my problems have come under the actually autistic hashtag. So I'll tell you the problem and why I find it a problem. And bear in mind, I'm just sharing my perspective. I'm not asking you to follow me or anything like that. I'm just sharing genuine things that have happened. So, what you get these days within certain autism communities is you don't get a safe haven, you get a dictatorship, you get an authoritarian feel. You have a narrative that has to be followed or you're not on side, you're not part of them. And because people will set rules and they will also use persuasive language, it can make you feel pretty rubbish when you don't, fit in, when you don't follow the narrative. And I understand, clubs, when people start clubs, like, you won't be able to start a motorcycle club and then have one of your, not have a prerequisite that you don't have a motorbike. That'd be weird. If I was going to start a community of its own, I would probably, if I was going to take a vested interest in it, I would want it to be people who were diagnosed after 30 years old. That's what I'd be after because we would then have more in common. And that's what communities are. It's people who gravitate with other people who share a common belief. When people go and watch a comedian, they're all there because they share a commonality in the same sense of humor. That's normal. But because actually autistic isn't governed, it's just something people put. Some people are quite rude, angry, hostile, aggressive, and I've been the brunt of that sometimes because one thing that I've made very, very important to me is I won't be talked at. I'll be spoken to, but I won't be talked at and expected just to follow and fall in line. And what I've done is I've challenged a few people here and there to just basically ask for a bit of clarification. And instead of clarification, I've been shouted at, been swore at, all capital letters. I've had more people jump on telling me why I'm wrong. I've had messages deleted. I've been blocked and I've been kicked out. All for after clarification. Now, who's the fault? I'm not being an instigator. I'm not there poking, trying to get a rise out of someone. I'm just saying, look, if you've got an opinion, and it is just an opinion, everything I'm going to tell you in this is an opinion. None of it is factual. It's all opinion. Then why can I not just ask for more clarification over your opinion? Why is it a problem that I challenge it? People have opinions that K-pop is great music. My opinion strongly differs, but I don't care if you listen to it because you're not being harmful or offensive. You just like rubbish music. Um, but I'm not going to fall out with you for that, am I? We're all allowed, if as long as we're not doing anything purposefully hateful, I don't see why it's a problem to have a difference of opinion. So a few things. The puzzle piece. You're not allowed to use a puzzle piece anymore to represent autism. You've got to use an infinity symbol, whether it be gold colored, whether it be red, whether it be rainbow colored. And this is where persuasive language comes in. People will tell you you have to identify with that and not a puzzle piece because this is what you have to use for autism acceptance. And the majority of the autism communities accept this. Now, when you're autistic and you've never fit in anywhere, and you read words like the majority and the majority of the autism community, which is what you want to be a part of, you want to be a part of something where someone gets you, the majority, and for autism acceptance, to be an ally to autism, you have to. Persuasive language forcing you down that path. Whereas if it made more sense naturally, you would gravitate to it naturally. You wouldn't have to be forced. You wouldn't have to be pushed. It's one of those situations where, like the saying goes, you can't, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. It's like they're leading you to the watering hole and then sticking your head in the water. And I don't like that, and I simply said that I prefer the puzzle piece. I'm not interested in companies or where it came from, but you gave me the option. You gave me a puzzle piece, and then someone else created an infinity symbol. So when you create two things, it creates a divide. It creates good, bad, yin, yang, black, white. And I'm going to sit on one side, and someone else is going to sit on another. That's life. That's just how things are. If you give somebody a choice, you'll create preference. And there'll always be free thought where someone sits on that. So because people used to identify mainly with a puzzle piece, and now everyone's being forced to identify with a infinity symbol, I still, as a human, off graphic, just prefer a puzzle piece because it makes more sense to me. But when I've said this on these forums, these communities, I've just said when they're forcing me with the majority speech and the autism acceptance speech, I'll just say, I prefer the puzzle piece. We're all entitled to like what we like, but using persuasive language isn't going to force me to change my mind. They come up with more things to try and back up their opinion. So they'll say things like, but a puzzle piece means that we are puzzling or that we are something to be solved. That's wrong. Like, well, yeah, it would be if somebody else said that, but you said that. I haven't said that. I haven't got that thought process. Nobody in life has ever said that to me. I've not actually seen it written down anywhere either, apart from people with autism who want you to like the infinity symbol. So that's an opinion, not fact. And the opinion you've given is wrong, I agree. But that's your opinion. But I'm allowed to like what I like. And then the comeback is usually, right, people have traumas with the puzzle piece. Never use the puzzle piece. You have to think of these people who have been affected strongly and are traumatized by the puzzle piece. No, I don't. I can't go through life, and this isn't me being disrespectful 1%, but I can't go through life constantly thinking about others and what might have triggered their response. I still drive a car. People have been hit by cars. There was a lad in my school whose sister got killed in a car accident. But if I was going to meet him, I'd drive my car there because it's easier for me to get there. And I have to have a route through life too. I can't pussyfoot through the world concerned over things that might have upset other people. I spent time in the fire service. People have been affected by fire as well. Am I never to light a fire? No, if people are triggered by something like that, it's their responsibility to avoid it for their own state of mind, not mine to avoid. So people are instead of just going, all right, then, you prefer a puzzle piece, I prefer an infinity symbol, not a problem. They don't. You're told you're wrong, but that's wrong. And I don't like the attack I get off of somebody else's opinion. And I think it's a pain when, if you have problems, if you have struggle with thinking outside of your own box, then maybe you shouldn't post things on an internet, because people will clash and you're giving yourself a forum for people to clash with your opinion. So at least have the, freedom of thought to see things from someone else's perspective. You don't have to change your mind, but you don't have to argue with people either. And people have done it over colours. They don't want you to identify with blue with autism. They want you to identify with red or rainbow colours, because blue apparently is all about boys, even though we're meant to live in an age where gender doesn't exist anymore, but it does when people want to make a point. And then they will say blue also promotes sadness and gloominess. So it's all negative. But that's an opinion, that's narrative, your narrative. Psychology will promote blue as calmness and trustworthiness. Blue is also the colour of communication. Look at Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, they're all blue. So it's just opinion. So when the EP start a campaign on Instagram and Twitter saying go red instead, I just said, nah, prefer blue. Blue is just my preferential colour outside of autism. My autism doesn't dictate which colour I like, but I prefer blue over red. And people then tell me why I shouldn't like blue. It excludes girls. No, it doesn't. That's just what you think. I've seen many girls wearing blue jeans, blue coats. You know what I mean? It's like you're just trying to find things to fit your narrative rather than saying, I prefer an infinity symbol. I prefer red. That's fine, but stop trying to drag everyone with you or making people feel wrong for having a difference of opinion. And that's the problem with autism communities. If you don't fit, you don't slot into place. Like if you still, if you don't accept self diagnosis on 100% validity basis, you get attacked for that. But an easy example is when I told a guy I worked with that I had autism, he went, really? I think I've got autism anyway because I have to do things in fours. Now, I know this guy quite well. There's no way he's got autism. But am I supposed to accept that just because he said that? That was all his intent was. So even people who have an ignorant perspective because they've never needed to know about autism, they can just say that. But these communities will tell me I have to accept all diagnosis of self-diagnosis because all of them are valid. No, they're not. They can't be. It's not accurate. It cannot be factual. Just like every single autism diagnosis that's ever been given by a professional, not every single one of them will be accurate either. There'll be kids wrongly diagnosed more than there'll be adults. That's more of a percentage guesstimate. But you never get 100% over these opinions, but you're told what to do. Telling people to identify with identity first and not person first. So I shouldn't, by rights, have a channel called Adult with Autism. I should be called Autistic Adult because it upsets people, it offends people. And what they tell you is, if you refer to it the way I have, then I make autism sound like an accessory, like I can just drop it, that it isn't actually a part of me. But who said that? It wasn't me, it was them. They said that. I've not read it anywhere else outside of the people who write it, who are autistic, who are driving an agenda to get what they want. I'll refer to me and my autism however I want, and I genuinely do not care or even see 1% of a problem whether I identify as adult with autism or an autistic adult. Hi, my name's Paul. I have autism. Hi, I'm autistic. My name's Paul. It just doesn't matter when you've got actual problems to deal with in the world, when you've got bills coming out your ears, you know? So, all I'm trying to get at with a few of these examples is people tell you what to do based off an opinion. And if you clash with that opinion, you get shouted at, scolded, told you wrong, get deleted, get blocked. But that's a dictatorship because people are expecting you to do exactly what they want, and how dare you challenge. There's a few countries like that in the world, isn't there? They don't seem a fun place to live. But how is that a community? Where's the community there? Where's the community spirit? Where's anything that makes any sense? And I've changed the way I will challenge now on places like Instagram. I ask a question rather than give a point. And I did it purposely to three people. And I'll just give you the example. So there was someone called Learning by the Pound, all one word, and they'd put up a post where it was saying, for autism acceptance, use the infinity symbol. To be an ally to autism, use the infinity symbol. So I said, am I still accepted in autism if I prefer the puzzle piece? And they said, absolutely. I can't speak for everyone, but of course, yeah, everyone's accepted. Doesn't matter what you identify with. And I appreciated that for several reasons. I appreciated the fact that they got back to me. I appreciated the fact that they gave me more than one word answer. I liked the fact that they responded so quick. But what I found weird was the fact that their answer contradicted their post. So if you feel that way, why not make a post that says that? Why do you have to force people down people like me would feel bad because am I going to get accepted if I don't identify with a mathematical equation for autism? And that's the irony, isn't it? I suppose, like, people say the puzzle piece is, in some people's opinions, it means you're there, you're puzzling, you are to be figured out. But then they change a puzzle piece with an infinity symbol, which is a mathematical symbol, and maths is to be figured out. I've only just realised that, but it's quite silly, isn't it? But what I will say about Learning by the Pound is I appreciated the fact they got back in touch. They were in touch really quick, and it was just odd. It just shows that without that ounce of extra consideration, that you can actually create a contradictory post over your answers. But I'm not having a go at Learning by the Pound. I will have a go, however, at someone called Lived Experienced Educator, because they'd just done this very short video that said self-diagnosis is valid. That was it. And I feel more for people who don't know what they don't know. And I know a lot of people in England don't realize that a self-diagnosed autism will not bring you any aid, will not bring you any assistance. No employer has to consider autism needs in a workplace. There is nothing legally in place that forces them to do this, which would, if they were liable, you would have a civil case against them if they didn't do it. So self-diagnosis, you don't have a leg to stand on. So I simply wrote on there, please note, in England, you do have to get it formalised if you are after any type of support or need. Just about, and because they were called Lived Experienced Educator, I just wanted to offer an ounce of education via something they had done, just in case they didn't know. And instead of just putting a thumbs up, which I probably would have done, they just went, well, it's a good job this post wasn't about that then, isn't it? Like, quite rude, abrupt, and sarcastic. I know it's difficult to take tone out of written text, but, well, it's a good job this post wasn't about that then, isn't it? It doesn't matter how you read it or whatever tone you want to put on it. It was rude and sarcastic. And I just thought, come on, your name is Lived Experienced Educator. If I'm offering education, why can't you see that? Why doesn't your experience show you that self-diagnosis will be valid for some people, not everyone? Like that example I've given you where that guy just went, yeah, I think I've got autism because I do things in fours. I've got autism and I don't do things in fours. And he's not autistic. I know him very well. But I thought that was quite rude and not exactly helpful, whereas I was trying to be helpful. I could have just wrote, no, it isn't. And that would have been rude. But it's not up to me to tell people whether their self-diagnosis is valid or it isn't. They will know based off how much they research, how much they pay attention to themselves. Do they know themselves? Have they studied what is beneficial to them as well as not beneficial? How have they molded their life to avoid pitfalls that I fall into? Just doing what that person I know did is not a valid diagnosis. But then some people who self diagnose absolutely will be accurate. Of course they will. And then another one, because I said I'd give you three examples, is there was someone, this person is probably the worst for me, because the other person was just sarcastic and rude, whatever. That's their fault to live with, not mine. But the other one is Arty Self Care. Now, they have a huge following on Instagram, but I've disagreed with a lot of their posts. And I have given the rebuttal, I have given the alternative perspective, I have asked for clarification. And 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, they have deleted my comment or blocked me or limited their posts because they're driving an agenda. They want what they want and nothing else will do. Now, people like that shouldn't be allowed on the internet, in my honest opinion, because, as much as you read a lot of the comments and they're like, yes, I fully agree, I don't, because a lot of things are still based off opinion, not fact. And opinion is just that. Manchester United, Manchester City. It's up to you who you support if you just had them choices, of course. It doesn't mean you're right because you support one or the other. It just means you've chosen one of an option, like with a puzzle piece, with an infinity symbol, with blue, with red, with person first, identity first, with if you want to use high functioning autism or you want to use a function label or a needs label, whether you still use Asperger's or you don't. The opinions, neither are right, neither are wrong, but it shouldn't affect you deeply where you've got to attack people. And I think one of the biggest points of irony about it all is there are a lot of posts on there about gaslighting. And gaslighting is manipulation by psychological means. But people will be posting about gaslighting, and then you look through their history and they're using persuasive language over an opinion, which is a gaslighting. Thank you. So they're an irony within themselves. They create their own paradox of irony. And that makes no sense. But all it does for people like me is it creates barriers. And that's, I'll say what I said before, but by there's too much. There's too much wrong in the world of autism. Too much. It doesn't matter your age, your sex, your colour, none of the things that people use as things to stand out. When you're autistic, none of it actually matters because you'll find that we all have commonalities that if we put the same amount of focus and interest and effort into, it would get better slowly but surely for all of us. But what people are doing by separating and making these decisions is it's making pathways that deviate off a path that we would all benefit from. So it's only going to benefit the few and not the many. Now, that's not fair. And what people are also doing is focusing on the difference within the difference. I mean, this is a topic for another time, but I've been reaching out to do collaborations and have live chats with people. And a lot of them turn me down. A lot of them give me too many rules and what have you. But I did find someone who said they were looking for someone to do a podcast with who's autistic. And I thought, maybe this is someone. And as I clicked it, Asiatsu Coach, I think they were called, they were looking for someone who was black, queer, autistic, intersectional, whatever that means. And, so it's sort of like autism is not enough anymore for people. We've got to really, really find more things and we've got to link them together and try and put focus on that and that and that. So because people are doing this and they're splitting it away, I'm a bigger fan of taking one thing at one time and putting a lot of effort and attention into it. And then I will do that with something else. What I don't do is merge things together and try and put all my effort into all things at all times because I get nowhere with that personally. So instead of focusing on what would benefit the many and not the few, we're now doing it the other way around by people finding things that they might have a problem with, which some of them are privileged problems, and putting too much effort and attention into them, which means everything stays the same for everyone because they're trying to change a colour like it matters. wanting you to identify as person first or identity first, which to me is just next level. Um, it's down to the individual. If someone addresses you in a way you don't like it, you raise it with them. That's normal. Someone referred to me as Dave. That's not my name. I'd address it with them. I wouldn't want everyone in the world then to learn my name to just know it just in case we ever cross paths. That's a weird way of looking at it, but I just think what's happened with these autism communities is they all started with the greatest of intention, but there's too many cooks and they're spoiling the broth and they're putting too much attention on too many things at the same time. And if you don't get on board with it, it's like a bus driver pulling up and going, right, we're all going where I want to go. And that's it. I'm not going anywhere else. We're only doing what I want to do. So you either get on or you stay there. And then it just drives off. There's no scope for discussion. There's no open forums where we can have a chat. I find that a lot of people who do collaborations already share the same thought process. I want to speak to people with different mindsets to me. I want to talk about the differences in opinion. I want to hear why I offend you. And I want to tell you why you don't offend me, but I'd prefer it if you weren't so harsh. Because we're allowed to clash. We're allowed to agree to disagree. If you're not being purposefully hateful, rude, or disrespectful, then why are you not allowed an opinion? Of course you are. But I've been, like I say, shouted at, swore at, capital letters thrown my way, a bunch of people all saying the same thing about I'm a horrible, terrible person, how I'm just trying to create a rise, how I don't understand autism, how I'm the cancer to autism people like me, which is a horrible thing to say, just because I don't share their opinion. We're not going to get anywhere. And I've had a horrible time trying to find somewhere to fit in. I've spent my entire life not fitting in anywhere. I'm going to have to go the rest of my life too. One of the good things about doing these videos is there's a handful of people who I've connected with. We've found a commonality. We've managed to reach out and just have that extra person that can, top us up. That's nice. I can't change the world, but I'm also not trying to. I just want people with autism to have a safe space, and that includes me. If I disagree with your opinion, that is allowed. I'm not being rude. I'm not being disrespectful. I didn't create the divide. I didn't give people two choices and then force them down one route, which then, I do not like being forced to do anything. So I will sometimes defiantly just like the opposite for that reason, to say, you don't control me. But the more things we create, the more things there's going to be to have a side over. More people will have a preference of one over the other. So we're never going to get anywhere. And people are just going to get more and more frustrated. So I'll just ask that if you are going to do these big posts, any of you who might watch, if it's got weight to it, it will naturally allow gravitation. You should never force someone with persuasive language. Don't tell people they're wrong for preferring something you don't. Just always remember, it's not hate speech if people are not being hateful. If they disagree with you, that's allowed. But what I'm trying to say, my friends, is I've had a horrible time trying to be part of an autistic community. So those reasons I've mentioned, plus 1,000 more, which I don't have time for, are reasons I don't find autism communities to be any good for someone like me. But if they work for you, I'm very happy that they do. But I hope you know what I'm on about. But until next time, thanks for watching and keep smiling.